All right. Well, we've got a couple minutes until we get started here.
I want to say thank you to city staff who already have the work session for Lakeshore Boulevard up on the website. I was talking to a resident today who was asking me about it, and there it was on the website.
Awesome. Good job. Well, I did send a message to Commissioner Stonehouse, didn't hear back. Sean, if you can keep an eye on that.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Jenna, I sent you something that has absolutely nothing to do with the meeting. Just seeing you made me think of it. So
Okay,
if you get that, that's
I
why.
just got it. Thank you. All right, it is 6 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get started here. Just a moment, my gavel is far, far away. All right, so the Monday, January 25th, 2021 meeting of the Marquette City Commission is now called to order at 6 p.m. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
City Clerk, could you please conduct a roll call vote, including location of our commissioner?
Yes, Commissioner Bonzal,
Here in the city of Marquette, County of Marquette.
Commissioner Davis,
I'm present, City of Marquette, County of Marquette.
Commissioner Hanley,
Present, City of Marquette, County of Marquette.
Commissioner Mayer,
City of Marquette, County of Marquette.
Commissioner Stonehouse, Mayor Pro Tem Hill,
City is here, City Marquette, County Marquette.
and Mayor Smith.
Present, City of Marquette, County of Marquette. And at this point, I believe Commissioner Stonehouse will be joining us shortly. City Clerk, if he does not, at what point would we need to make some formal action? Just by the end of the meeting?
I think if you did it by the end of the meeting, that's fine.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so we do have an agenda in front of us, Commissioners. Do we have a motion on this agenda? Looking for hands here. Hold on, there we go. Commissioner Davis.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, and a second, Mayor Pro Tem Hill.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes,
Yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion passes 6-0. And I do have two announcements this evening. So first of all, the City of Marquette recently received an award for excellence in financial reporting. This information is posted on our city website, but I just wanted to say how proud I am of city staff for getting this award, and I will go ahead and read a little bit about it. So the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting has been awarded to the City of Marquette by the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada for its comprehensive annual financial report. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. An award of financial reporting achievement has been awarded to the individual, department, or agency designated by the government as primarily responsible for preparing the award-winning CAFR. This has been presented to the Financial Services Department of the City of Marquette. This is judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, including demonstrating constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the CAFR. This is a nonprofit professional association serving approximately 21,000 government finance professionals with offices in Chicago and Washington, D.C. Congratulations to the Financial Services Department in the City of Marquette. I know this is not the first time you all have received this award, and it is well deserved. We've got Gary here in our audience. Nice job, Gary, to you and your staff. Thank you. And my second announcement is a reminder for the glass collection for recycling. As most folks know, we now have glass recycling again in the City of Marquette, but I think the schedule has been a little bit elusive for some folks to keep up with. So as a reminder, it will occur the first week of February, February 1 through 5. So it's always the first full business week of the month where glass recycling is the only recycling that is collected. So no cardboard, no containers, just glass containers on the first full week of the month, and then save up the rest of your recycling for those future weeks. If you have questions on that, you can go to our website at marquettemi.gov, where we do have a schedule, but essentially the schedule looks much like this, where the first week of any month, or first full week is highlighted, and that's your glass week. So just a reminder to folks. I know a lot of folks are excited about the glass recycling, but it really only works if we're trying to make sure that we've got the right things being collected on the right days to keep the equipment and the folks running things smoothly at the landfill. So thanks all for your help on that. I see Commissioner Stonehouse has joined us. City Clerk, if you could please take his roll call.
Yeah, so Commissioner Stonehouse, present, and then for the Open Meetings Act notation, city and county you're participating from.
Yes, present in City of Marquette, County of Marquette.
Got it.
Excellent, thank you. Brings us to public comment. Public comments may not exceed 3 minutes per person. Do we have anyone for public comment this evening?
We have 2 written comments.
We do have 2 written comments this evening. I presume City Clerk will help us with those?
That is correct.
Okay.
As Sean stated, we've got 2 comments that were emailed in. And I will start with Eric Berg, writing 421 North Front Street. And he writes, "My name is Eric Berg. I'm a Marquette, Michigan resident, and I'm writing to express my displeasure upon hearing about yet another approved townhouse project at Founders Landing. The housing market in Marquette has straddled between transient student housing and year-round residents for as long as the university has been here. As a renter myself, I can personally attest to the inadequacy of private residences for rent. Though the university has expanded its on-campus rental housing, the town itself has not. It has been overcrowded and competitive in number and price for some time. What's more, the age of the average Marquette home and suitability of shared homes for single occupants and families delivers little value for the dollar. More townhouses on that land for that price is a smack in the face to anyone currently living or thinking about moving here. Why risk our community's character, stability, and quality of life in order to make a developer more money?" And then the second public comment comes from JC Madden at 1017 High Street. And JC writes, "Hi, Commissioners. I'm a longtime follower and first-time caller for voicing my opinions on the housing in Marquette, especially the options for lower and middle-class families. From my experience and the endless amount of frustrated people I've talked to, we are tired. Land for condo after condo, townhomes, birdhouses, and other upper class and snowbird housing options pop up every year, but the last affordable housing complex, Grandview Apartments to my knowledge, that was created in our city filled up almost immediately, and there is still a waiting list. Whetstone Village is also completely full. Oriana Ridge, The Village, Pine Ridge, all fill up fast, and when there are housing options available, oftentimes tenants are met with mold and plumbing issues, bugs, poor location, little privacy, high population of buildings, and overall quality of life issues in these spaces. Not only am I disheartened to see commissioners say, quote, I'm glad we're getting to the end game on it, and certainly it will be a good asset for the city of Marquette and our residents when referring to the latest Founders Landing parcel that the commission approved. But I ask you this, who is this an asset for? The grocery store employee, the teachers, waitresses, couples, students, families, cashiers, or childcare employees? Because I'll tell you from a combined experience, this is not an asset for us. It is a blatant disregard for our needs of adequate and affordable housing and a show of the importance of sealing the deal over the quality of life in Marquette for residents who make under a specific annual income. As a born and raised resident of the UP, I ask you to listen to your constituents, not just your business owning vacation home 6-figure salary constituents, but all of us, even the poor ones. As the tourism industry booms in and around our city, it's important to see that each commissioner is dedicated to the growth and progression of Marquette without leaving the people who even before the pandemic were trapped in the margins behind. Thank you to Commissioner Bonzal and Commissioner Mayer for taking a stand on behalf of our community. Thank you all for your time. And that is it for the written comments.
Thank you, City Clerk. And do we have anyone that has called in? All right, public comment is now closed. I just wanted, in case we do have anyone watching at home, the City Commission has a chance to respond to any public comments during commission comments at the end of the meeting. So I know that can be a little confusing for folks sometimes when we don't address those questions and concerns right away. All right, moving on, we have a presentation tonight from the Traffic Parking Advisory Committee by Nina Vanda Endy. Thank you, Nina, for joining us this evening. I think I saw you somewhere. There you are. Yeah. And I know you have a presentation that you're going to go ahead and share with us. So go ahead and take it away. And once you're done, we'll open it up to the commission for questions or comments.
Okay, I'm going to attempt to share my screen.
Looks like it's working. It's just loading. There it is.
Okay. Okay.
It's rather small, though. I'm not sure if you can.
Yeah, I see that.
Can't
let me try to move things around here.
If you hit enable editing and activate, you'll have more choices.
Okay.
I don't know about activate. Maybe activate's a bad choice. Yeah, just that one.
Is that okay?
And then if you go up to the top and do slideshow.
Yeah. Sorry. I see slides. Okay.
A little higher in the red or the orange.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
There you go. Yep. From beginning.
Yep. Okay. Okay. So I'm one of the members of the Traffic and Parking Advisory Committee. This committee was started in 1978, and our mission is to include the complete streets and help residents with issues that they have that come up throughout the year. We conduct 12 meetings a year. These are our members. We have I believe we have 2 openings, 2 vacant spots right now. This is our mission statement. You guys can read through that. It's basically to promote safety and connectability throughout the city, including motorists and pedestrians. Over this past year, we were obviously not meeting March through September, so we did not have a lot that we accomplished necessarily, but we have several things that we monitor ongoing over the last 2 years. So this presentation is kind of meshed together even with last year. So, for example, we've removed some no parking signs over by Norway Street by the university. There was a speed study down in McClellan down between Wright Street and Fair Avenue. It was 25 miles an hour. That was up to 35 miles an hour. MDOT regulates Grove Street up by McClellan and Grove. They actually regulate it from the bypass stoplight at US 41 and McClellan on through and past the ski hill. So that's regulated by MDOT and not the city. But we did request MDOT to change the light timing at Grove and McClellan because it was green too long north-south. We also worked a lot about educating the public on biker safety and pedestrian safety in the crosswalks throughout the city. And also the DDA has with the crosswalk signs. I know they've come up and down in the summer and winter, and they've even come down with the DDA on 3rd Street. But I think it still has a lasting effect on motorists to remind people that regardless of whether there's a sign there, it is our state law to yield when a pedestrian's in the crosswalk. So some people like those signs, some people don't like those signs, but nonetheless, it remains a state law, whether you like the signs or not. But again, a lot of it's public education. You can read the rest here. We helped the DDA with adding some handicap signs near Snowbound Books and the gym, which used to be Synergy, but I can't remember what it's called now. I think that might be it. And we were approached to remove some no parking signs on College Avenue over by the university. And that was one resident. And we, as a group, thought we would not do that and just kind of monitor it over the next year and see if there's more citizens that approach us. We supported the city's changes to intersections, including the roundabouts. We feel that those were very beneficial to the city in many ways. They keep traffic flowing. We deal a lot with parking issues and sign placement throughout the city. So a lot of our requests are usually to take down a no parking sign or to put one up. So we see a lot of that. We continue to work with the police department regarding problem speed areas within the city, especially Fair Avenue and Presque Isle. Mike Lorla, who's on tonight, he's our police liaison. He's at every meeting with us and gives us good information about where the problem areas are and how best to address them. We work well with the DDA and parking related issues downtown. For example, sometimes there's parking meters that are not always working correctly, and Mike gives us the information that they're in the process. It's my understanding they're in the process of replacing meters in the near future. So things like that. It's nice to communicate with these other groups and have that liaison. Goals from the upcoming year, you can just kind of look at this slide. There's some high, in 2018, it shows some high traffic crash intersections that the police department works on. And they're ones you could already guess are areas that are problematic. So you want to take a look at that. McClellan and Washington, you know. So that's that. Also, another thing we're monitoring is the Baraga Avenue and South Lakeshore Boulevard. So when you're heading down toward the lake, you don't have a stop sign, but the other sides do, and people get very confused there. So we do realize that is a confusing intersection. We're watching it to see what future development, what the impact has there with the future development. And like I said, we work with the police department really closely. And if they think that something else needs to be done there, then we would do it. We also look at if this intersection is a high crash intersection, and it's not currently one of those that is. So another problem area is the crosswalk coming down, I guess you'd call it East Washington and Lakeshore Boulevard, down by the restaurant on the corner. In the summer, when pedestrians are crossing there and you're coming down that hill, there's a bit of a blind spot there by the restaurant, and that we feel is a dangerous area, and we have been monitoring that and trying to think of ways that could be made safer for pedestrians. More goals for the upcoming year is to review the new street lighting system in all locations around Marquette. We do have a new lighting system. We continue to watch the area near the new hospital. That's an ongoing thing. And I really think that that's not really an issue. I think that went very well. We were worried about that when the new hospital went in and the traffic flow in and around there, but so far we haven't gotten any feedback that it's an issue. We'd like to work a little closer with zoning and planning concerning traffic congestion due to the future condo development, and request a summer traffic study on North Lakeshore Boulevard, the pedestrian crosswalks. We're talking about when people go to the beach down by Crescent Street and those streets that are very, very busy in the summer, or where the beach is very busy in the summer, and people crossing there basically from people that live mostly maybe in East Marquette, or they're just crossing the street there on Lakeshore Boulevard by the beaches is getting really kind of dangerous, I think, at times. Yeah, so we think about how we can better accommodate winter pedestrians. This is by the high school, looking east, I guess you would say, on Fair Avenue. There's also, this issue can be seen around Bothwell, I think, in certain areas, not each street in Bothwell, but there's certain streets around Bothwell too that don't have good walking for the students in the school zone. Another area that we've looked at is when you often see people walking into Econo on Odavero Drive. It looks something kind of similar to this. There's not really good walking for people walking in there. I'm pretty sure I was told that there is eventually going to be development of a sidewalk there at some point, that Odavero Drive is owned by the city. We did seek that out to see if that was in fact a private drive or a city street. And I was told it was a city street. So I think there may be plans in the future for a sidewalk there. Any input on that would be welcomed. That's it right there, actually. So you can see on the right there, and in the winter, it's harder for people to walk. So these are the things we look at. We looked at connectivity of the streets is also an issue. This is near Bothwell and Superior Hills. So be nice to have some streets connected, and it would really help traffic flow. I already talked about this a little bit. And I talked about this as well. This is Baraga Ave and South Lakeshore Boulevard. And you can see the sign there, Baraga traffic does not stop. And we've talked about too, Officer Lorla has talked to us about more signage at an intersection is not necessarily a good thing. It's very distracting for people. So obviously you have to have signs, but we try to limit the amount of signs we throw up at an intersection just arbitrarily. So, okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Mina, let me, trying to see if I can exit the full screen here and if I can see if folks have their hands raised. I wanted to thank you for the presentation. I think you bring up a lot of good points, and we could probably go on for quite a while talking about these specific intersections, but I think you hit the highlights on some of them that at least I would have questions and concerns about, you know, over by Econo there on Odavero Drive, and some of the busier intersections in town with traffic incidents and people, like you said, crossing at Lakeshore Boulevard and all of those things. You know, before we open it up to the commission, I guess my question would be, what would the general process be for like a resident who has an idea or a question? How do they get that to your committee? And then, what, you know, what kind of a response do you usually give to someone who says, you know, I have an idea? Well, how does that work?
Right. So a lot of people approach me on the street, but for just the general, you know, citizen that wants to contact us, usually they will email Mike Lorla, Officer Lorla, or Officer Rebold. Usually the emails, I think, come through them, and then we put them on the agenda. And a lot of times private citizens will come to our meetings, not now, but when we had our meetings, they'd actually come. We meet the third Tuesday of every month at 5 p.m. and that's via Zoom now, and people can Zoom in and request to come to our meeting. I would email the city via Officer Lorla or Officer Rebold. I think that's okay. And then, yeah, a lot of people just ask me when they see me and I let them know, but yeah. And it's listed on the city website too when we meet.
So residents, you know, come to you. Obviously, the police department brings ideas and questions to you, and I would guess that the community development department and zoning bring things to you as well if anything should pop up that they notice. So
they do. One of the things they brought, they just wanted us to look at the nice new bus pull through behind Sandy Knoll when that when that was being developed. That was wonderful. And we just kind of blessed it. We're not really a governing body. We're an advisory committee. So we don't, for the citizen that wants to come and talk to us, we welcome that and we want them to come. But we can't always give them an answer or change something right at that meeting. And we are an advisory committee. And so we basically, looked at that bus change at Sandy Knoll and gave it our blessing, and it was a great thing. So that's an example of when planning would ask us to do something. Mostly it is citizens emailing the police department.
Yep, makes sense. Thank you for
Or
explaining.
contacting the police department, I should say.
Yeah, exactly. I'll go ahead and open it up to the rest of the commission now. Go ahead and raise your hand, commissioners, if anyone has a question or a comment for Nina. Go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
Yes, Nina, thank you for your presentation. Your
Sure.
community does some very important safety work for our community. I wanted to highlight a particular high traffic crash area, and that is the intersection of Genesee and South Front. And there's a lot of pedestrians there, and there's a lot of vehicles that run the red light at that particular intersection. There's also difficult entry and exit into the businesses. And with a new hotel going up and 2 marijuana shops going up, I just think that it's going to be, all of that issue is going to be increased. In fact, when the 2 marijuana shops were approved, I had like 14 people come to me and say they were worried about that intersection. So I'm very glad that you have it up there as one of your concerns for the committee, and please keep taking a look at that to see what can be done about it. The other thing is I noticed that you work with parking, and the Ad Hoc Housing Committee is preparing their final report and recommendations. And I would like to ask your committee to take a look at their preliminary report and consider their recommendations in relation to parking and traffic issues within that report. So I think we would appreciate your feedback on that.
Yeah, I'm just writing this down. This is Housing Committee.
The Ad Hoc Housing Committee has a preliminary report that is available on our website.
Okay, thank you. Will do. And I will just add quickly, Commissioner Davis, that intersection you're referring to is regulated by MDOT. Correct me if I'm wrong, Officer Lorla. And so we don't have a ton of say over that intersection, but we obviously patrol it and watch it. And Officer Lorla lets us know, those high traffic intersections, and then the police department would report that to MDOT.
Okay.
But just so the community knows that intersection is regulated by MDOT.
That can be a little bit difficult for us to navigate here in the city because it feels like it's all in our territory, and it is, but.
Yeah, and I agree. That intersection is really, I think, dangerous. Commissioner Hill? Go ahead, Officer Lorla.
So South Front and Genesee would be a part of the city. The MDOT does start, I believe, past Hampton Street.
Okay.
As far as the high traffic crash areas, the police department, we assign traffic control cars daily to go out, monitor, enforce, be a presence, a specific deterrent to those areas. We also assign every morning during the busy times coming into the city, a police car to specifically monitor that area, as well as the rush hour going home at the 5 o'clock hour to make sure that there's a presence down there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Lorla. Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
Yeah, I have some other things, but specifically about this intersection. Didn't I hear that MDOT's actually going to be repaving Front Street, that area of Front Street, this construction season? I feel like I heard that at one of our previous meetings. And so that could be an opportunity to put in some changes and improvements.
Oh, yeah. My city manager, Mike Angela, says he can answer that. I don't know the answer to that, so I'm going to let Mike answer. Hold on.
Hi, I was saving this up for my comments at the end of the meeting, but yeah, beginning in 2021, the highway is going to be reconstructed from the roundabout west along the bypass. And then in 2022, south of the roundabout to the newer construction down by Hampton Street is going to all be reconstructed. We are planning that stage right now because as part of that project, the city has to replace infrastructure, water, sewer, and those kind of things. So that's the schedule that's been given to us by MDOT right now, and that's what's going to be happening there.
Thank you, Mike.
So so is there a way that traffic and parking and these concerns can be brought to MDOT and potentially, measures taken is my question.
Yes, those can, and we address those with Officer Lorla, and he communicates with MDOT on a regular basis, and we could do that.
Good to know. Thank you, Nina. Appreciate that. Other commissioners, Commissioner Stonehouse.
Thank you, Your Honor. Great report. Thank you very much for doing it. And it's got to be an ever-changing battlefield because as the city changes, the requirements for transportation change, the streets change. So you guys have really got a career that's going to go on forever, I think. But I would ask you if you could look at two things specifically. One is the ad hoc housing report, because I believe there's some comments in there regarding the city doing away with winter parking. In other words, where we ban winter parking on the streets, or at least selected areas of the streets. And I think you guys need to weigh in on that and take a good look at it. Likewise, the DDA plan also talks about not having the ban on winter parking on selected streets. And I think that's a critical thing that needs to have, again, the traffic committee weigh in on for what their opinions on it and conclusions would be. But other than those taskers, great job. Say thank you to everybody on the committee from me and from the commission.
Will do.
Any other commissioners? Questions or comments? Commissioner Hanley?
Thank you. I just wanted to say this was very informative on how you do it. I know that I've had a few people who came to me, and I don't drive it often enough to know it. I've only noticed it once. The light that is on Ridge and McClellan now, apparently when you're parked coming up Ridge from, say, Fair Street or coming up McClellan, you can't see the light when you're the first person in line underneath.
Yes.
Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, they painted the lines too far into the intersection.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've had
we're
people
aware
say
of that, and we haven't been able to get them to change that. We are aware of it. We've discussed it. The lines were painted way too far into the intersection.
Okay.
To my knowledge, there was no good reason for that. And you just, right now, you got to use just, I guess, some common sense not to pull up under this light. But
yeah, once you know it, you know it.
It's very awkward. Yeah.
Our city manager has something to add on that.
Just a little side note on that. We were restricted by the placements of the light poles that support those lights. There were other traffic control devices. There were other BLP poles in that area. So if you actually notice, when we placed the lights up for the first time, they were way up.
Yep.
And so we had to have them reset the lights again so that they were more in line with the road. So it's more of a problem with where the poles are located than anything else. And I think it's probably the best it's going to be, at least for the short term. So, but it's not something we're not aware of.
Perfect. And then the only other thing, and this is somewhat a thing that I notice more often because I live on the corner of 3rd and Fisher, or 4th and Fisher, but the three-way stops that you have on these corners, living here, I see so many people that stop coming up front or coming up 4th Street because they don't know, or people that come flying around it when there's kids are getting out of school. Is there any looking at that to look at possibly making those 4-way stops at each of those intersections, 3rd and 4th and Fisher?
So far, no. The short answer is no, that has not come up. The city did a traffic study not all that long ago, and that, I believe, that was not addressed or was not found to be something that needed to be changed.
Did they do it when school was in session is all I ask, because I just can't see, like,
Well, I
it's
think it,
only during that time that I see it being a big issue, because I've seen a lot of kids where you can't, in the winter, you can't see when you turn around that corner coming off 4th Street. And I see kids that are walking across the street or doing things,
Mhm.
and I see a lot of slamming on brakes, and it scares me that one day when there's not a crossing guard, because they're only there for about a half an hour, that there might be an issue.
Officer Lorla, can you speak to the traffic study a little bit?
Well, a lot of these intersections are what's called are warranted, where either stop signs are needed or are not needed. And with the traffic study, of course, they went through the city and did a citywide study, and some signs were taken down and others were put up. And in order to put up like an additional stop sign or and so on and so forth, it's based on pedestrian traffic crashes, speeds, and the whole 9 yards. And I just, in this instance, it wasn't warranted to have an additional stop sign at that location at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Morella. Do we have any other commissioner comments or questions? Commissioner Bonzo.
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly, thank you, Nina and Captain Lorla and everybody on the committee for the important work you're doing. I did want to bring up that I did want to bring up the points that Commissioner Davis and Stonehouse and Hanley all raised. They really kind of took the words out of my mouth, but I'm actually serving as the chair of the Ad Hoc Housing Committee that Commissioners Davis and Stonehouse were referring to. And we did just release our first report. It's very easy to find on the front page of the city website, right on the homepage. And I definitely would welcome any communication, from you or any other members of the committee. Maybe even a little work session between our committees might make sense at some point this spring or summer. So definitely, we need to. I completely agree with Commissioners Davis and Stonehouse that we need to be communicating, especially with regards to some of the recommendations in that report about minimum off-street parking requirements and the winter parking ban.
Okay.
And how that relates to housing and our ability to have kind of incremental development of missing middle housing in the city. So would definitely encourage you guys to look into that, and please feel free to reach out anytime. And then I also just I was going to bring up exactly that intersection that we just had a little discussion about. Definitely very familiar with it. My dad lives down the street from there. So, but I'm glad that you're all aware of it and that the city is doing what we can, even if it's limited. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill.
Thank you. Yeah, I will add my thanks to the good work that you're doing and the relationship with the police department and the ability for the public to come in, bring ideas, get things moved forward. It's really a good example of how local government can work with residents and shift as we need to over time. I wanted to bring up that I think a summer traffic study of Lakeshore is very, very important. I was actually on a call for work with some of the tourism folks in the UP. And last year, the UP had the highest tourism we've ever had, and they do expect again another season of very high tourism coming up in 2021, even with the situation as it is with COVID. So I think it's going to be very important for us to understand how these high traffic areas are being impacted. So I think that would be a valuable use of resources to make that happen. And then I really appreciate you bringing up the winter pedestrian question. I also think that's really important. And I know it's not customary here for everyone to shovel their sidewalks, but it certainly was when I lived in New England, and you got fined if you did not take care of your sidewalk. And if you were unable to, then there were resources in the community to support that. High school kids, Key Club, that kind of stuff. There's a way for us as a community to come together to help support better access for everyone to walk. Not everyone has a car, or not everyone has a car all the time. And I think it would be really helpful to our city to have better better walking in the wintertime, particularly in important places like grocery stores. I wanted to ask about the connection between Bothwell and Superior Hills. That does seem like an odd like an odd distance to. I've never understood why they aren't connected. There's actually, you know, pavement on the north side there, and it seems like a no-brainer to me to make that connection. But so I don't know if you have any history now, or that would be interesting to better understand. And then my last question or comment is what was it? Oh, actually, two things. One, yeah, I also agree that the impact to the hospital moving has been amazingly minimal. I'm on that side of town a lot, and it seems to all just flow onto 41 and seems to be fine. It's really well done to the folks who figured all that out. And then my last one is, I know you had the 2018 crash data, 2019. When it's available, could you share the 2020? And then maybe it would be really interesting to see also how the numbers have changed over time. So what the numbers were for 2018 and where the 2019s were and where the 2020s are, to see that change over time.
Sure. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good, great work by everybody. This is some of the most important work a local government does.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Any other
Commissioner.
commissioners, questions or comments? I'm sure I've given everyone a chance that wanted to. I think that we are all set on that front, Nina. We certainly appreciate the work you do, and Captain Laura, you as well, and your committee and your department. Please keep us posted if there are things that we can weigh in on and help with, but I appreciate the work, and I know we all do, that you're doing. Thanks for joining us, and I'm sure we'll be talking with you soon as some of these other projects progress.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Have a good night. Okay, moving on to item number 2 on our agenda, we have consent. Commissioners, do we have a motion on the consent agenda? Commissioner Hanley.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
And do we have a second? Commissioner Bonzel?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll second that motion.
Any discussion on consent? Hearing none, all in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item number 3, City Manager Replacement Process, Subcommittee Reappointment. City Clerk, could you please read the background?
Thank you, Mayor. On December 1st, City Manager Mike Angeli provided to the Mayor and City Commission his letter of intent to retire on May 31st, 2021. Since the City Manager reports directly to the City Commission, the Mayor proposed a subcommittee of 3 City Commissioners be formed to develop a process to use for filling the upcoming vacancy. The subcommittee was formed by Commission action on December 4th, 2020, with the charge to review options for the City Manager replacement process and to put forward a recommendation for approval by the full Commission. Since that time, the subcommittee, consisting of Commissioners Davis, Mayor, and Stonehouse, has met and determined it would be in the best interest of the city to seek proposals for executive recruitment services by hiring a consultant. An RFP was advertised seeking these services with a required response deadline of January 22nd. At this time, the subcommittee is seeking reappointment with the charge to review and evaluate the proposals received for a hiring firm, a consultant, specializing in recruiting city managers, and will make a recommendation at the next regular meeting for approval of the recommended firm. Fiscal effect, none with this action. Recommendation, reappoint the City Manager Search Committee, consisting of Commissioners Davis, Mayor, and Stonehouse, with the responsibility to evaluate proposals for firms, consultants, and recommend to the City Commission the best qualified to lead the Commission through the City Manager search process. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioners, do we have a motion? Commissioner Hanley?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I motion that we reappoint the committee to do all of those things that I'm just said. Sorry.
And do we have a second? Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
I second the motion for everything that the clerk said.
And Commissioner Hanley, any discussion on that? Mayor Pro Tem Hill? Any other discussion on this topic? All right, seeing no discussion, all in favor, please say yes.
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 Yes. All opposed, please say no. Motion passes 7-0. I just wanted to add that we are giving this subcommittee the authority to help us move along in the process with the timeline here. So thank you to the subcommittee. We've got Commissioner Stonehouse, Commissioner Davis, and Commissioner Mayer on that subcommittee, and they will keep us posted. Thank you for the work you're doing. All right, moving on to item number 4 here in new business, we have a contract modification for BP 17-11, solid waste collection services, curbside residential. City Clerk, could we please have the background?
Thank you, Mayor. At the September 25th, 2017 regular meeting of the City Commission, the Commission approved a 7-year contract with Waste Management of Marquette, Michigan for the collection of curbside garbage and recycling. On July 1st of 2016, the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority, DMCS-WMA, implemented a 10-year tipping fee plan in order to secure funding for future landfill construction, equipment purchases, and general landfill operations. The City of Marquette bid packages for solid waste services were based on utilizing this fee plan. Through the years, the haulers were expected to absorb any small variations from the proposed landfill fee schedule, and they've done so. On October 21st, 2020, the MCS-WMA director recommended a substantial increase in the tipping fee to the MCS-WMA board to help cover lost revenue during the COVID-19 pandemic. The recommended tipping fee increase was $4 per ton, or about 7%. Subsequently, the haulers have requested adjustments to their contracts to accommodate this large unforeseen change in the tipping fee. Per the contract, the hauler is responsible for the tipping fee as part of the collection service. In order to continue to foster the business relationship, staff recommended adjusting the contracts to accommodate this large unforeseen change in the tipping fee. The proposed increase adjusts the contract rates to accommodate the increased tipping fee, but does not make a fee adjustment for the service itself. The adjustment will be made beginning January 1st, 2021, and subsequent years of the contract. The proposed increase for fiscal year 2021 is 15 cents per month per stop, or $1.80 per year. The individual increases are shown on the attached schedules. Fiscal effect. Each participating city resident pays a fee that covers the solid waste services option that they have chosen under the green bag system and cart system. The added cost of the service will be offset by increasing the solid waste service fees. Recommendation: approve the proposed second amendment to the City of Marquette Solid Waste Services contract for curbside collection service with Waste Management, Inc. of Marquette, Michigan, and a corresponding amendment to the solid waste services section of the adopted City of Marquette fiscal year 2021 fee schedule. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Appreciate it. Commissioners, do we have a motion on this item? Commissioner Bonzo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that we approve the proposed second amendment to the City of Marquette Solid Waste Services contract for curbside collection service with Waste Management Incorporated of Marquette, Michigan, and a corresponding amendment to the Solid Waste Services section of the adopted City of Marquette fiscal year 2021 fee schedule.
And do we have a second? Commissioner Hanley?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Bonzo, any discussion?
No, none of this time.
Commissioner Hanley? Any other commissioners? Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
Can you hear what's going on in the background?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. My husband apparently needs to print something. Sorry, let me turn the printer off. Oh, it's done.
I'll go on to Commissioner Stonehouse. It looks like you had a comment, and we'll come back to Mayor Pro Tem Hill.
Well, thank you, Your Honor. I mean, we obviously have to pay it. We obviously have to ante up, so to speak, for what they need at at the solid waste yard, but it is disturbing to see that they passed this without any sunset on it. In other words, we're paying the additional money in theory now forever. And you would think that they would at least sunset the requirements so it went on for 6 months or a year. And at that point it dropped off because they should have recovered then from the COVID. So we're seeing an increase in fees that are perhaps and probably in the long run unjustified. And I find that very disturbing. I also find disturbing that my understanding, and I see Mr. Convenzi here, that this was passed without any real discussion. It was presented apparently by the director, as I understand it, and the board just said, okay, we agree. So you're looking at how do you define policy, how do you examine policy, how do you look at physical affairs, how do you conduct the affairs of government in a manner that best reflects the citizens and their money. And I have the reluctant conclusion that they don't. They just do it. And we're left here, unfortunately, as a compact member of the Waste Board to have to pay it. So I've said my 10 cents and people can look at it from that angle. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
Thank you. I have concerns as well about waste management and our hauler, and who is a $15 billion a year company in revenues last year, and had $1 billion worth of profit, according to the information I found today on various business websites, as reported in their financial reports. And so I don't understand why our waste hauling firm can't absorb this cost and instead is trying to pass it on to the residents of Marquette. I really don't understand why they can just pass that along when this waste management is way bigger than the city of Marquette. So I have a lot of concern about that. And I also, it sounds like there are definitely questions about how decisions are made at the Waste Management Authority. And I fear that it's becoming acrimonious, and I think transparency would move things along a lot better. And if things were more transparent and we understood how things were going, maybe some of the we could put it back into a footing of problem solving, which is what I would hope we would get to. So 2 points. One is, why in the world is waste management passing this along to us? That makes no sense to me. And 2, could we have more transparency with the Waste Management Authority? Thank you.
Commissioner Mayer?
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a couple things. One, to Commissioner Stonehouse's point, looking at the minutes there and the discussion that happened, I couldn't really figure out why the $4 was what they proposed either. I didn't see any rationale as to why that was the magic number, especially when you looked at the loss of revenue. I wasn't quite sure how just those $4 was somehow going to be the number that was going to fix that over the course of a year. Looking at all numbers, though, if someone could clarify real quick before I finish up here, how much more would a resident have to be paying in a year for this?
I think we figured that out. Is it $1.80?
$1.80.
Okay.
Yep, $1.80.
It's in the summary. I don't have it in front of me. Is it a month?
It's
A year,
15 cents
$1.80 a year.
$1.80 a year.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Scott. Commissioner Davis?
Well, I'm going to add my 2 cents to this whole discussion. $1.80 per year for each household doesn't sound like much, and I will support this motion. My concern is for the constant fee creep for residents. This on top of our annual increases for various utilities. It becomes a burden for those with restricted incomes. 25% of our residents live in poverty, and we have to remember that. Some will experience water, gas, or some utilities shut off, especially this year. And we talk a lot about affordable housing in our community, but we really need to talk about affordable residency. How much does it cost to live in Marquette on top of rent or on the top of how much it costs for a home. So I just want to acknowledge that this burden and make sure that we're paying attention to the financial stresses that our residents have. And I also want to comment on the Solid Waste Management Authority, our county landfill. Only, with the documents that we had, it was only 2 years ago that the management proposed a 7-year tipping fee projection, only 2 years ago. And that memo projected a $53.50 tipping fee for this year. And then somewhere along the line, it got raised by $6, and now it got raised by $4. So their projection, which was only 2 years ago, and they projected a $2 increase, ended up $8 more. So that just, and other people have commented on that. So I guess to the landfill board, I ask that they be mindful of what those downstream consequences happen when they increase rates for tipping fees. And I asked them to, as their minutes kind of started to talk about, to roll back that $4 at least during their upcoming year.
Commissioner Hanley?
Okay, after listening to all of the amazingly insightful comments from the commissioners, wonder what would be the outcome if we decided not to pass this motion. It seems like no one on the board is actually supporting it. So why do we just blanketly do it because it's forced upon us? What can we do to change this to make it actually be something that we want and can move forward with? Can we put a limit on it and put it as a year and then we revisit it and see if it's still necessary? Can we change this so we're not just signing on because we feel like it's forced down our throats and rather we're finding something we want?
City staff? Oh, Scott, maybe you might be able to weigh in on that, or if we want to have city manager weigh in.
Mike, or do you want me to speak?
He says, go ahead.
Go ahead, hey. Well, the first comment I would make is just starting out where some of the increases came from. The $6 per ton increase, if you recall, that was purely for the new recycling infrastructure that was being put in place out there. So that's why that was put in. They discussed various different options with that instead of going with the tipping fee. They discussed avenues going through the county and different ways they could assess fees and that. And that's what they came back to, was raising the tipping fee. The $4 is going up $4 as of January 1st of this year. But if you notice as you go along there, it drops back to on July 1st only being $2 ahead of what they had proposed. And I think, it's a little bit more. Certainly the other thing to realize is they actually set their fees once a year, just like the city commission does when they do their budgets. So they will be, sometime before that fiscal year starts, actually approving that budget. But I agree, it's certainly concerning if you look at what the variance is in the one column on the sheet there as to how much that has gone up. And that's one of the reasons why we've had these types of talks with our solid waste hauler is how can we accommodate things like that? Well, they could have asked for a percentage across the board on their entire contract, but we've got numbers we feel are good enough that we can kind of dial it in. So there is no increase, or they're not gaining additional money on the service they're providing. This increase completely represents only a pass-through on the tipping fee itself. And one of the things when we put together bid specs and that we try to do is make the bid spec so that everybody can bid apples to apples, and we try to take as much of the variables or variation out as we can. If you remember a contract ago, we put a provision in there for a fuel surcharge. And that's when, fuel prices were up over $4 for a little while there. And, we tried to make it so that, there wasn't as much guessing for either side of it, because typically what you find is if you've got a large variable that could be in there and somebody's bidding on something, they're going to make sure they can cover that cost. So this is one way of doing it where it's completely fair, I guess I would say, both ways.
We've got the city manager here too, might be able to chime in and help answer the question as well.
And just to add a couple more details, I think Scott alluded to this, but this situation is because of action by the Market County Solid Waste Management Authority, not anything that Waste Management did or enacted or actually went after or tried to change. We, as a group of county managers and supervisors, have met twice with the leadership at the Solid Waste Authority just to discuss this process specifically. They're very, at least now they understand our concerns. And one of the things that Commissioner Stonehouse mentioned was a major one, and that we would have preferred that if they create this increase to what we perceive as a short-term problem, that they put a sunset on it and then re-examine it after, or at that time, to see if it needs to be renewed. It's probably, or maybe something that they do in the future, but it was a little too late for this particular action. The other issue that we're trying to deal with and trying to get a little better grip on is that the City of Marquette has 2 representatives on that authority. We actually have a third that's represented by the county but lives in the city. So our interest is represented there. However, the decisions that are made at that level are made to the benefit of the authority, not necessarily to the benefit of the consumer or the customer. So we're trying to come up with ways to improve that communication, improve that situation. I will admit that COVID-19 has contributed quite a bit to this problem, because Scott goes to every meeting. And for the past year, he's only been able to attend via Zoom, so it's made it a little bit more difficult for us to participate. And a lot of the other constituent municipalities that are involved in this process don't have the manpower or the ability to send representatives to that meeting or those meetings. One thing we asked to have, and has happened, is that the chair of the authority is going to send each of us, or all of the managers, a summary of every meeting outside of the minutes, so that we can keep a running observation of what is actually happening, so that this kind of thing, it doesn't really sneak up on us like it did this time. By the time we were really aware of it, the motion was passed, the raise was authorized, and we were looking back at trying to fix the problem. I will say one thing for the authority, though, and for those of you that probably haven't been around as long as I have, and maybe Fred is aware of this, but the authority was in some serious financial trouble a few years ago, probably as recently as 6 years ago, because of some mismanagement at the top level, financial management. It's not a criminal mismanagement, but just some things were done that did not keep it kept the tipping fees low, but it kept the debt high. And the current manager and administration out there wants to avoid that problem again, so they are being very aggressive with their increases to make sure that they don't fall behind in any of their bills, any of their costs. And so I guess to that end, we should be thankful that that's not going to be a problem in the future. We're not going to have that same problem again. But at the same time, I think they need to have a little bit clearer picture of how these raises impact us. And we're trying to fix that as much as we can. Thanks. Yes, I'm sorry. Jen, is that for me or for someone else?
Well, maybe we've talked about this a little bit, but just further clarify, because I frankly, I'm still confused about this. It also isn't clear to me if what we've been told is that the reason the tipping fees have to go up is there's less trash coming in, and mostly that the reduction in trash is from businesses, especially the restaurants, obviously, which have not been open and generate quite a bit of trash. So are residential folks being asked to support the landfill because the businesses are not generating the amount of trash? And is that what's going on, or are there other fee increases happening across the rest of the folks who come in, and what are they being asked to pay?
Well, I'm going to let Scott answer the bulk of that question, but I will say up front that a majority of the burden falls on the municipalities that are members or constituents in the Solid Waste Management Authority. I mean, it's more or less up to us to make sure that the landfill is successful. Now, whether that actually translates into us absorbing most of the burden or more of the burden, I don't really know. And I'm not sure how much the business community generates for the landfill, but Scott has a little bit more detail on that, and I'll let him follow up.
I'd have to go through and actually look at their annual report to see what the percentages are again for that. But I think the base of the question is everybody pays the same tipping fee, whether you're commercial or residential. So it's really being spread out across the board. If you're, bringing in more solid waste, you're going to end up paying more of that difference to make it up. But everybody is paying the additional $4 per ton.
Thank you.
I said Commissioner Stonehouse, but I was on mute. Sorry about that.
No, let me provide a little history for some of the new commissioners that have just stepped aboard. What was happening 30 years ago with all of our dumps throughout the Upper Peninsula in Michigan? The DNR was closing them because they were dumps. And we all know where our former dump site is at the end of Pioneer Road. So the city was under quite literally legal requirement to close the dump. Every little township had a dump out there. At least in Marquette County, there were 18 of them all functioning simultaneously. And what the state did was cause, through their intervention and their leadership, all of the units of government to come together to form a Marquette Solid Waste Authority and to focus on one area that would be our landfill, properly run, properly managed, properly constructed. That landfill was put in Sands Township. Because Sands Township had the landfill, they then had the hereditary right to have the chairman of the board, the fellow that was is still chair of the landfill authority. And then each of the counties, each of the municipalities has some form of representation that sits on the landfill authority. I think Mike mentioned we have actually two, but a third one by default from the county. We are part of that. We in fact contribute, I think, Scott, about half of the product that goes into the dump, into the landfill, coming out of the city of Marquette. And that's roughly the same figure, I think, for the recycle coming in too. But so we are a major owner of that authority. And therefore it is in our best interests that we manage it well, because it's to our benefit. If that ever went down, if there was a problem with it, what would we do with the trash? Remember, at one time we were putting it in trucks and hauling it to Daphne, Michigan. Daphne is down the other side of Hessel and three stops from, whatever, almost past the Sioux and into Toronto, I think. So think of the environmental issues with just running waste haulers that long on the highway versus just bringing it out to Sands. So when we get mad about the authority, we are in effect mad at us. And we can separate that out a little bit, but we've met the enemy, he's us. We got to figure out how to do it better. Thank you for your time, Your Honor.
Thank you, Commissioner Stonehouse. So Commissioners, it seems like we've got, some good discussion rolling. I know that we have a motion and a second on the table. I guess I would like to ask if we would like to vote on that or if we wanted to amend it at all. I'm not sure exactly which direction we want to go as a group, but, coming into this, I will say that I didn't necessarily see a huge issue with this adding $1.80 per year. I know it fundamentally seems like we should be able to work through this and maybe not have to have this increase, but at the same time, it's a pretty low expense, and I am confident that we're going to be able to work with the landfill authority moving forward to see if we can get this to fall off, hold some of those folks who represent us accountable on that board, and maybe hold ourselves a little bit more accountable to do that. That's kind of where I was going at coming into this, but certainly open to hearing what direction you want to go in. What do we think? Should we take a vote on the original motion, or do we have more discussion? Sorry. Do we have any further discussion? Commissioner Mayor?
Yeah, I'm not even sure if it's discussion or if I'm just kind of processing thoughts out loud. I know it's $1.80 for the year, but I feel like, and all of us can agree that this has probably been something we've been hearing constantly lately, is 2020 was terrible for everyone, and everyone's private sector and public sector's general plan on how to handle that is the average citizen is going to cover all the economic hardship of it. And it's $1.80, but I don't even know from some kind of almost philosophical standpoint, it just troubles me from maybe a public policy standpoint's a better word for us to just start doing this when it doesn't need to even happen. And I think one of the things that, again, the Commissioner Stonehouse brought up at the very start of this, there wasn't much discussion. I don't know why it's $4. They didn't explain where that number came from. It was just thrown out there by the director. I don't know. Like I said, I'm just kind of thinking out loud right now.
Well, Commissioners, I don't know if we want to take a vote or if someone wanted to make an amendment to the current motion that's on the floor. But I would be interested to hear from city staff what would happen if we don't approve this, what that would mean before we go down that road. Commissioner Hill, Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
I guess, yeah, could we have from whichever city staff person would be appropriate, the question of what happens if we don't approve it, and then two, could we as a commission order that it be sunset and then bring that back to the authority board to reopen that negotiation with them? So are those two options possible?
Scott, you're on the hot seat.
I guess I would just say it. I mean, there seems to be some intermixing of the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority and Waste Management, who is our hauler. They are completely separate entities. And as Commissioner Stonehouse said, really the Solid Waste Management Authority is us.
Well, if I said waste management, I was wrong. I meant the authority. I'm sorry. The name is, I meant the authority.
No, I mean, my feeling is that, at least for the time being, that's the Solid Waste Management Authority's plan moving forward. They review that, like I said, as part of their budget process every year. So I guess, as far as that end of things goes, I would encourage you to say, maybe get them to look at that over the course of the year, maybe have those discussions that, they consider rolling that back if it's appropriate at that time. As far as the relationship goes with our hauler, they have approved that fee increase. Really, in essence, the hauler, it's a pass through from the city to the hauler to the landfill authority that is, break even. If that makes sense.
So Scott, can I try to summarize here? So the landfill authority has set these rates, and the city staff is recommending that we approve these rates to be increased with our hauler, which is Waste Management, to keep that business, relationship flowing, because they're gonna have a pretty large increase. Understand there may be, differences of opinions there, but that's essentially the ask at this point. I'm thinking about it like if it was from our perspective, we set all kinds of rates at the city. The rate is the rate. We can't, when we set a rate, we don't make exceptions for people paying a lower rate necessarily. But the kind of the strange piece here is that we have a contractor in between.
Yes, we have the contractor who is paying the tipping fee to the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority. So for that number of tons, they are going to pay that tipping fee, and it's going to be the increased tipping fee that's $4 more than really what the basis of our contract was.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay, thank you. I know it's just a rudimentary explanation, but I appreciate it. Commissioner Hanley?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm just going to put this out there. So basically this vote was put to us, but not really as a vote. We don't actually have a choice. We have to approve it one way or another is what I'm taking from this. Like it's more, because
they set the rate. So I guess I wonder if we don't accept it, what does that mean? Do we not have a waste
yeah,
hauler?
that's the question. Yeah, like what happens if we say no? That's what I want to know, because at this point it's being, everything I'm hearing is we don't get that choice.
Well, there's a choice. It's just I don't know that we like the outcome of that. City manager wants to weigh in. He's standing here. Maybe you should get your own device here, Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, maybe I should. From my point of view, and I don't think it would be problematic if you were to put a sunset on this particular increase. I don't know that, you're kind of putting the pressure back on the waste hauler, Waste Management, because they're the ones that we're trying to accommodate here. But at the same time, I think, a clearer message has to be sent to the authority that you really need to look at this. And I guess what I'm thinking is if you amend the motion to put a sunset on the increase to coincide with the authority's annual budget review process, so that Scott relates to the authority that when they go through their budget, that we're not going to continue to pay this $4 a fee, $4 extra a ton if it's not necessary. So the authority needs to take a really hard look at it instead of just rubber stamping the fee, because we all know that once a fee is there, it's almost impossible to get rid of it without some kind of back pressure. So I don't think that's unreasonable. I think I may not be here when that happens. I don't know when the budget is up for the authority, but certainly Scott can be available to make sure that is out there, and they understand that if they do continue the $4 fee, that it's going to probably have to come back to this process again, and they're going to have to explain it again, at least to the commission, why they're maintaining it. I think they need that kind of I don't want to say pressure, but that kind of pushing from us would be a good thing.
I think that might be the momentum we needed, Mike, so thank you. So I'm not sure what direction we want to go, but if the original motion maker would like to make an amendment, now would be a good time to do that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that was Commissioner Hanley. Thank you, Commissioner Bonzel. He's not on my screen, he's on the second thing here. There he is. Commissioner Bonzel, I don't know if that's something you're willing to do or not, but now would be the time if it's something you wanted to do.
Well, it's my motion. Anybody's welcome to amend it. I'm not quite sure
Okay.
what we want to amend it to do, or what the appropriate sunset would be. So I'm going to leave that up to my colleagues to decide.
Okay. Do we have a motion or an amendment, or do we want to vote on the original motion? Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
I'll amend it. It turns out the annual reports are PDFs on the Waste Management Authority website, so I'm trying to download it, but it's taking a really long time to see when their fiscal year is. Go ahead, Sally.
It looks like
Their
Commissioner
fiscal
Davis.
year ends in June. It's just like our fiscal year. July 1st is their fiscal year. That was in the documents.
But our fiscal year doesn't, or it starts October 1.
Oh, okay. Their fiscal year starts July 1st.
Thank you. Thank you. So I would like to add to the motion on the table that we would we would authorize the increase through July 1st, 2021.
Commissioner Stonehouse?
As necessary, I will second that motion.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor of supporting the amendment, please signify by saying yes.
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 And all opposed, please say no. So the, Scott, you don't have a vote. I'm sorry, sir. And hold on, I'll get to you in just a second here. Because that motion is we've already voted on it. Right? I don't think I can change it at this point. City clerk is nodding. Okay, so, do we have, someone saying no? I didn't hear a no, but I saw a hand. So do we have all the commissioners say yes to the amendment? I'm just making sure because I saw a hand. Okay, so the amendment passes 7-0. City clerk's keeping up with us. Scott, I'm sorry, what were you gonna add in there?
I just wanted to clarify. I mean, the information that was provided to you is really, you know, it's a done deal at the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority. They've set their fees. So really what was before you was making your hauler, who the city has the contract with, whole for the decisions made at the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority.
So I totally understand the question, Scott. I think the commission is asking you to put some questions and pressure back on the landfill authority to see if this can come off starting July 1.
Okay, so just to clarify what your motion is, you're voting to make the hauler whole through for the next 6 months.
Correct. All right, so we have a motion approved on the amendment. Now we are back to the original. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Bonzo, do you have some discussion here? Trying to get through this.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to comment briefly. You know, I completely understand the concerns and the points that were raised, you know, by Mr. Cambenzi, by the city manager. You know, personally, I think, you know, my fellow commissioners have made a compelling argument for why this is a good idea. And I think it's important to remember that we can always revisit this issue at another time as well. This isn't saying that for sure that we're going to just leave our hauler out to, you know, hanging out to dry on July 1, but it is putting that pressure on the Solid Waste Management Authority that I think we've all come to a consensus we want to apply. So, you know, personally, I support the original motion as amended.
All right, so let's take a vote. Thank you, Commissioner Bonzo, I would agree. Let's take a vote on the original motion. So with the amendment, do we have to read the full thing? City Clerk, could you help us out here a little bit?
Yeah, I can read it. I just want to clarify a little bit too. I know I feel like we're all trying to clarify right now. But the original motion was to approve the proposed second amendment to the solid waste services contract with Waste Management and the corresponding amendment to the solid waste services section of our fee schedule. The amendment then authorizes that increase through July 1st, 2021. So I guess in practice, would the commission expect another amendment to the fee schedule at that point in time? Or are you just expecting our representatives or city staff to kind of transmit this conversation to the authority?
I foresee that as some further conversations with the landfill authority and or potentially revisiting this, you know, in June if we needed to make an extension or maybe whatever that timeline may be, or maybe both. But I would say that a sunset clause would have been preferred, and this is, I think, how we're making that publicly known.
Okay.
Does that make sense, City Clerk? And
Yep, I just want to make
Commissioner?
sure I can get it down in writing.
Yep. So, back to the original motion with the amendment. Let's go ahead and take a vote on the whole package deal through July 1. All in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion passes 7-0. We made it through. Thanks, folks. That was a muddy one, but we got it. All right. Well, we look forward to hearing the progress there. I know that's a little bit of work for our city staff, and let us know how we can help if needed. And I know we'll be revisiting that one in a few months, I'm sure. All right, so that now brings us to our second public comment session of the evening. Do we have any written public comment for this session?
No, we do not.
And do we have any call-ins? Okay, public comment is now closed. Bring us to comments from the commission, and we are back to starting at the top of the alphabet. Commissioner Bonzo, go ahead and start us out.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you to my colleagues as well and city staff for helping us get through that muddy and confusing issue there. But I think that we made the right decision. I just wanted to note a few things as quickly as possible. First, I want to thank city staff, especially Dennis Stackwitz and Sean Hobbins for their assistance, and David Stensis for their assistance in preparing our January 2021 preliminary report from the Ad Hoc Housing Committee. I'm the chair of that committee, and we just released a report that can now be easily accessed by the public. There's a link to it on the homepage of the city website. If you just go to marquettemi.gov, scroll down just a little bit, it's right there. You can click on that, read the report. It's almost 100 pages long, but most of that is just appendices and attachments. So I think just to get the gist of it would not take very long. I think the actual report is only about 10 pages. So would encourage all city residents to look into that. And I just want to thank our city staff and my fellow committee members for, I think, and everybody that contributed to that project. We got that submitted to the commission on January 15th as scheduled. And I'm looking forward to our work session on February 3rd regarding housing and that report. And then I also just want to, again, reiterate the point the mayor made earlier that that although overall our switch to single stream and glass recycling this past few months has been very successful, there are issues with contamination that are being caused mostly by people just being confused about when they should be putting out glass and when they should be putting out the other single stream recyclables. So I would just encourage all city residents to, again, go to the homepage of the city website, scroll down a little bit, click on recycling, and take a look at our 2021 recycling schedule, maybe print it off, put it on your fridge. We're thinking about ways we can more effectively communicate with the public as well, but the long and the short of it is that the first full 7-day week of every month is when you put out your glass. So I would just encourage everybody to please pay attention and try and remember to do that correctly so that we can keep on recycling glass in the city as we currently are. And then finally, just 2 points that I wanted to bring up. So first of all, I was honored to be appointed recently by Governor Whitmer to the Protect Michigan Commission. The mission of the Protect Michigan Commission is to raise awareness about the safety and effectiveness of the approved COVID-19 vaccines and educate people in our communities and across the state of Michigan, help the state of Michigan Department of Health and Human Services design public outreach efforts that can effectively convince folks to get vaccinated and help beat the pandemic. And so I'm really looking forward to serving and representing the city of Marquette, representing younger folks, rural folks, people from the UP on that commission, and I'm really excited and would encourage feedback and from anyone, be it my colleagues here on the city commission or members of the public or anyone really in the UP who has some thoughts or opinions on how the vaccine education effort should be conducted. So I just wanted to make note of that. And I also recently was appointed to serve and represent the city of Marquette on a legislative policy committee for the Michigan Municipal League. The Michigan Municipal League has several legislative policy committees that make recommendations and kind of decide what the Michigan Municipal League's position is going to be on various pieces of legislation that are proposed at the state level down in Lansing. And I'll be serving for the next couple of years on the Economic Development and Land Use Policy Committee, alongside really diverse array of folks from all across the state, both elected and appointed officials and municipal staff, and just really excited about that opportunity. And we once again encourage anyone who has interest in anything from economic development to zoning to blight to medical marijuana and recreational marijuana policies, short-term rentals, that all falls under the umbrella, and a lot more under the umbrella of that policy committee. So would encourage folks to reach out with thoughts, ideas, and concerns.
All right, Commissioner Davis?
Sure. I have only one thing, and that is a thank you. These days we see more people than ever walking our bike path, and it seems to be the social thing to do. And I really have appreciated how the city staff is keeping the bike path clear. It was clear right after our latest snowstorm. I see they've widened it to help with social distance, and they've extended it from South Beach south to the Kiln. And so thank you very much for all of that work that's been happening with the bike path. That's it.
All right, and Commissioner Hanley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually kind of want to address the comments that were made by Eric and JC during the public comment portion. I agree that we are missing middle housing. The report by the ad hoc committee has done a great job of pointing that out. But when it comes to the sale that we approved this past week or this past meeting, it was a sale that was approved in reality almost a year ago. This was the finalizing of the development agreement. It was approved before I was on the commission, but it is something that's necessary. I have to stand by the fact that I don't think that the missing middle housing is going to be found on the Lakeshore or on the Lakeshore properties. Those properties are high rate properties for a reason. They are the places that you're going to see those things. It is sad that the developers continually want to do those, but those are the properties where you make money. And we have to try and find ways to entice these developers to be making the properties that we're looking for and that we're missing, and to find ways to do it. But we can't fault them for wanting to continue to do it. And to vote no on that property would have also put into problems some different things, because it was tied with brownfields to other projects we already have working in the city. So it is something that I absolutely looked at before I made my vote, but it's something that I in the end realized that was a necessary thing for our city, and definitely something we should have done going forward. So thank you for your comment on that.
And Commissioner, Mayor Pro Tem Hill.
Okay, thank you. So I want to add to the conversation about the recycling and the need to remember that it's the first full week of every month. I put a challenge out to our creative, wonderful musicians in the city. I think that someone needs to come up with one of those sea shanties that we can all sing while we're out taking our tub out to the curb. I've asked several friends. It's a little bit of a challenge. First full week doesn't quite roll off the tongue, but I'm sure we have a tremendous musician community in our city, and I really hope that someone can come up with that sea shanty that will help everyone remember that glass recycling, and only glass recycling, not the other stuff, goes that first full week of the month. I also wanted to say that we had a work session last week about the lakeshore and what's going to happen to the lakeshore area near Cliff Dow's. I recommend that folks watch the recording of our conversation with very preliminary high concept drawings of what's going to be there. It looks like it's going to be a cobble beach of stones of 4 to 8 inches along that area and then an area carved out of 250 feet sand. And folks, this is an important conversation, getting as much public input as we can about what's going to be coming in that critical area where we're going to be spending millions of dollars, I think is very, very important. So again, it's right on our front page. It's on the Lakeshore button on the marquettemi.gov. And then as I mentioned in the traffic and parking presentation, but I'd also plan to bring up now, I had conversations with several tourism groups this week and learned that every expectation is we're going to have high tourism numbers again this coming summer and fall, and that we as a community and the city are able to start planning for that. I'm sure there's folks who have some good ideas about how we might be able to adapt to the increase in numbers, and I'm looking forward to working with folks to help address that here in this winter so that we can be ready for what's coming in the summer and fall. And as always, please wear your mask, please stay socially distant. And I think I also want to commend the county health department. It has been a challenge to get the thousands of people who qualify right now to get vaccines, to get them in line, in a room, and everything all set. There's been some bumps along the road. From what I hear, once you get in the room, everything goes really, really well. And I want to thank folks for that. The pre-registration system went in place today. I saw many folks were able to make that work for them today. And hopefully we'll have more vaccine soon. So again, please wear that mask. And if you're eligible, please get the vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we just have 2 left here, Commissioner Mayer, and then we'll go to Commissioner Stonehouse. Commissioner Mayer.
Great. So I would like to start off by congratulating Commissioner Bonsall for both of your appointments, and also thank you and the ad hoc committee for the 98-page report you guys sent us. I'll be honest, I haven't gotten a chance to read all of it yet, but I'm very looking forward to it. I do want to, I have to carefully word this, but address why I was not at our last work session, just for kind of a transparency's sake. I have been and currently am and will be for a period of time on active military orders. At the start of this meeting, I said I was in the city of Marquette right now. I am on a short period of leave before returning to those orders. But I am currently working with the state officer for public affairs to put out some sort of statement as to the amount of information I can provide the public to be transparent. They are going to try to accommodate me the best I can in this role, so I should still be able to come to our meetings. I'll have, my phone, my tablet, and things like that, so I can still communicate with constituents. It might just take me a bit longer to respond to any questions or comments you send me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner Mayer. Certainly appreciate your service and your willingness to share what you can at this point. Commissioner Stonehouse?
We certainly do, Commissioner Mayer, and thank you for doing it. Please be safe. Your Honor, 2 things. Number 1, I did get the shot, and I did do it at the Northern Center, and I can assure everybody that it is exemplary. Whatever rough spots they had starting off, they have smoothed them and are really doing a super job. And in fact, when you are finished and have successfully had your shot, they will give you a cookie, which makes it all worthwhile, because they also are the cookies that have the white chocolate in them, not the chocolate. But Enough said about that. I'm going to ask something, and I think it's been apparent tonight that there's great public interest in what we will be doing with affordable housing. We had a couple people call in tonight. I've been contacted by a number of people online, in the street. People are really interested in what we are going to do and have recommendations, and everybody has an idea. But this is a very poor time to try and make those decisions as a commission. The best we can do is what we're doing tonight. We're on Zoom. Now, Zoom meets the technical requirement of being open and transparent. The governor says we can do it, and certainly we are doing the best we can. But for public input, to truly engage the public, this is not an adequate way to do it. It may be legal, but in my view, it is not even approaching being moral, because we don't have the venue for people to be able to talk to us, to be able to line up, to be able to do very traditional public meetings. And these are the things that we need to have as we build our way through the process of looking at and determining what we do with affordable housing. So what I'm visualizing, what I'm suggesting that we do, is simply put it on the shelf until we are able to bring people back in the commission chambers or back into the community room at the Lakeview Arena and actually do the work that we will do in the public with full public transparency. And I'm asking that real consideration being given to that. I would cancel the work session we have scheduled for next week, and I would do everything that we have to do in full public view. Every candidate that runs for the city commission makes one promise to the voting public: I will be transparent. Because you know those people that are there now, they're not transparent. Well, this is a way of demonstrating that commitment to transparency. And the extra couple of months it will take before we can do that again. And you're seeing the numbers fall, you're seeing the hope. We're on the kind of the bottom end of this thing. That again, we will be able, in the, I think, the short term, couple of months perhaps, to hold that traditional public meeting from the beginning, where people have the full access to what we do at a workshop. And if we have people calling in with ideas and experts working with us, they're available to the public too. So I ask that the greatest consideration being given to that, and we do not present the appearance that the commission is trying to hide behind Zoom, is trying to run a railroad, is trying to do things the public may not like. Let's get out there and let everybody see what we're doing and fully participate in American democracy. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Commissioner Stonehouse. And while I certainly understand the intent of what you're saying, I think that we can be transparent, at least in our very initial discussion at a preliminary at the work session, and I don't see it as the end all be all. I see it as the beginning of a long conversation that we're going to be having here at the city. So, you know, I as mayor don't have an intention of canceling that work session, but I do understand that we need in-person public input at some point in this process. Unfortunately, I do not share the hope or vision that we're going to be able to do that in a couple of months. I don't see that as being a possibility. So I think that might be maybe next fall, next winter, but with the vaccine rollout, I don't see us being able to have a public venue in that short of a time frame.
Your Honor, I will point out that work session, when we go over that report, is the linchpin of everything we will be doing in the future. That is a critical moment in time. And I would hate to see it squandered where we do not do it in a fully transparent manner. So again, thank you for allowing me for that outburst.
I understand. We're certainly entitled to our opinions, but I do think we can make some forward-moving progress with the work session next week. So my comments for this evening, I have two things. So one, I wanted to address the two folks who wrote in for public comment. I had an Eric Berg and a J.C. Madden, I believe, both living on High Street. And I certainly understand their concerns with the Founders Landing property. And I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of history because it's been a while. And I know we've probably rehashed this a couple times, but in case they're listening, that piece of property is quite contaminated. It's not something that would be desirable to a lot of different developers. The piece of property the city owned that we couldn't necessarily do anything with, And I was on the commission when we made the decision, you know, to move forward with selling that property and allowing a developer to develop townhomes on that property. And I understand that those units will not be affordable, and yet the city still does need to find a way to get some tax revenue that we've been sorely missing since the power plant closure up on Presque Isle. So it's all a balance. I certainly understand those concerns. We are trying to address these housing concerns, and I know it's a complicated animal, but you are heard. We're working through it, and I'd be glad to talk with either or both of you privately, you know, before, during, or after our next work session, and I hope that maybe they would come in and attend via Zoom and listen in at that point. The other thing I wanted to mention is a positive story. I had a resident reach out to me and let me know that they had a great experience with the Marquette Police Department. They had an unknown garbage bag on the property, and they were worried that it might be, you know, something drug-related. They didn't know. They were feeling quite nervous. They called the Marquette Police Department. Officer was quick to respond, determined it was safe, and even took it away to dispose of it so the resident wouldn't have to use a green bag. I know it's a small thing, but it's not often that I get the happy, kind remarks, and I just wanted to point out that they're happening all the time. Our city staff is doing an extraordinary job serving the residents, whether that's the police department, fire, public works, here at City Hall, any number of folks. So keep doing what you're doing. We certainly appreciate you. I know it's been a difficult time, but our residents really do appreciate the work you do. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And that now brings us to comments from our city manager.
Ooh. Here I am.
Is that working?
I'm gonna miss these days. Just to add one more thing to the Founder's Landing discussion, I think we are pretty much done with selling all of that property and probably developing it. So as far as anything more coming in there, it's probably not gonna happen. We have one more piece of property that's across the street. We refer to it as parcel 2C, or no, it's another half of parcel 2. 2C was sold to the hoteliers, which is right on the corner of Lakeshore, or Lake Street and 41. That's still to be built on, but the property right across the street is probably never going to be sold. But the good news is that we finally did close on that property after your action at the last meeting, which brought in about $433,000 into the city coffers, which was very helpful, and I thank you for that. Other news I'd like to mention, there was a comment about the Lakeshore Boulevard project. And just so the commission is aware and the public, is that we plan on bringing back a completed plan for approval to the full commission sometime in the near future. So there'll be one or more opportunity for the public to see that and for the commission to see that plan as well and actually approve the construction projects. We have some preliminary work going on right now with surveying and things of that nature and some permitting. And once we get all that complete, we'll be back in front of the commission. A little bit of good news is that we found out this last week that we are eligible for a small $20,000 MEDC Small Business Survival Grant through the state recovery packages that we can apply to Lakeview Arena. And we plan on taking advantage of that and hopefully improving some of the things that are going on over there. And lastly, I just wanted to mention that for those of you that may be interested, but I know there's one of you out there that's probably really kind of interested about in the tennis courts at Williams Park. Yeah, I see you smiling up there. We're still working on getting that permit, getting that approved, the grant approved through the DNR. We're going back and forth, answering some questions. We're putting a lot of pressure on the DNR to get us that grant approved and money approved for us, hopefully within the next month, so we can begin that project this spring. Sometime with this COVID, there's delays back and forth on communications, but we're doing our best to try to get it moving. That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thanks for joining tonight, everyone. We are now adjourned at 7:47 PM.